enough to use.
Yeah,
So I'm not hearing much about the need for public transit, except for the people who are close enough to get to the highway and depend on going in and out of town. And then what I'm hearing is, it takes a long time to go into town and come back.
yeah. No, and you know what, it has to do, in my opinion, with urban sprawl. We have so much sprawl in our city that our transit is really being affected by it.
Yeah.
You know, we don't have an efficient transit system in that sense, you know, because there's so much, everybody's so spread out that it makes it really tough.
It was interesting when we had the, I always get this name mixed up, but the Friendly to Senior Southern Group was in here, and one of the gentlemen was talking about this whole urban sprawl, but he said what happened though is, we didn't create a city and then allow it to spread.
No, we created 6 cities and brought them together. Or
Everything
not
was-
6, but
Yeah,
yeah.
everything was spread, and then we brought it together. So in other words, the urban sprawl is our own fault, or not even our own fault, it's the fault of the municipality.
Amalgamation. Yeah.
And the provincial government thinking that this was a good thing.
Yeah,
Said it was probably the reason it was the last place that was amalgamated was, it was just wrong.
oh,
to
it
do.
is, yeah.
But now that it's done, you've got to live with it. But now you've got that urban sprawl that you're trying to bring closer to the center, but now you've got to overcome the challenges and the objections of the people who are living in the outlying areas, who are saying, well, I've got the land to divide my property into 4 for my kids so they can come here and live, but you're not gonna let me do it because of the cost of the infrastructure.
Yeah,
And so you're into this, yeah, so when you get into costs of transit and building new infrastructure, and plus the fact that our ground is rock.
yeah, and that makes it a lot more expensive. I think, if you look at, if we were to have a more stable downtown, you would have more of a need for transit, so you would be able to afford to put more money into the transit budget and probably increase the services quite a bit if we could get downtown going, right? And I think that's really our main stumbling block when we're looking at transit, is the location of our main transit hub and the condition of the area that it's in. I think, like when I do talk to people about transit, that's gonna be one of the points that I make sure to bring up, is that, you know, in order for us to really put some money into transit, we have to have the users, and in order for us to have the users, we have to have a place for them to go, you know. So if you look in other cities, a lot of transit users are you know, young professionals that, you know, they take transit back and forth to work every day. But if we don't have the jobs in downtown, then it's gonna be a little bit difficult to keep people on the buses and things like that, right? So,
And I think it's always difficult to be spending a lot of time talking about providing and improving a service that only 4% of your population uses.
yeah, well, and you know, it's quite interesting. I was, when I did talk to the one person about the transit, they were saying how there's a stigma in our city and in our community for using public transportation. And this is somebody who's, you know, a downtown professional that works down there. And the person was saying, you know, like, when they take the bus, they're stigmatized. Why do you take the bus, you know? But in all reality, it's, you know, a young professional going into the city to work. So if we could get those good jobs and attract the businesses into the downtown area, we'll be able to get a little bit more revenue for our transit, to help our transit.
Yeah. It's interesting when you talk about the downtown, because we're gonna have a whole show on the Constellation report that was I think presented to council at the beginning of 2007. It's been 7 years. But one of the recommendations was that you strengthen the core areas
Yeah,
of the outlying area. Like that, you take a look at the downtown Chelmsford, the downtown Cape Real, and the downtown, and you don't forget that those are important parts of those communities that have to be built up. And one of the things that, you know, living in the valley since 1974, one of the things that I've always heard about was, well, our downtown is just as important as downtown Sudbury. And you still have that divide between the people saying, well, what's all the stuff about the downtown Sudbury? What about downtown Valcarran?
yeah,
What about downtown Garson? What about downtown Coniston? Why does everything have to be downtown Sudbury? And I think you hit the nail on the head. I think we're starting, I think, anyway, from what I can see, is we're starting to change focus on what, we're not sort of making the downtown a retail
No.
hub, but we're starting to look at making it as an educational and a professional hub. So like you say, people are brought into that area to work or to go to school, or, you know, professionals. I'm starting to see a change anyway. It seems as if the stores that are closing and the ones that are being replaced are a little bit different.
Oh, no, I
They're
think so
attracting a
too.
different crowd.
Yeah, and that's all with the demand of what downtown is gonna be bringing with a lot of the student housing that's gonna be down there. You have your schools that are down there, and then you have, there are a couple professional, businesses that are down there right now, but I'd like to really see that grow.
Yeah.
I'd actually really like to see, free Wi-Fi being brought downtown as well. That might be something that attracts some businesses, even startups, to go down there, and it'll help the students with their costs. You know, they'll have the opportunity, even if it's just for 2 or 3 hours a day, to use the Wi-Fi on their accounts. You know, and it's done all over the world in different cities all over the world. You know,
Didn't realize that, but that's,
and it's very beneficial, I think. And to say, well, right now some of the cities do, or some of the businesses do provide it, well, it should be a blanket provided, but throughout the whole entire downtown area, and just to bring a benefit, you know, just to bring another business down there, another, you know, jobs down there, get people down there.
yeah, good point. Another thing that keeps coming up, before I forget it, is this whole issue of council being open and transparent and doing things in the public.
Yeah,
I'm hearing this, you know, from a lot of different people, and there seems to be, I don't know, for some reason, there seems to be a lot of people in the city of Greater Sudbury who think that a lot of stuff is being done behind closed doors, or is being done in secret, and all of a sudden decisions are being made. If you get on there and you know that that's the perception, how do you even start, like, what can you do as an individual councillor to make sure that perception starts to get erased?
well, you just have to be as open and transparent to everybody, and let them know what's going on. I don't think that that there really is any better way than to just be open, and, you know, that everything's covered in the media, or on council meetings, and so it's all covered. So I mean, you can only be as open as you can be.
Yeah, and then we do things like, we institute new policies that are designed to only allow accredited reporters into council meetings, and put them in certain areas. They can no longer go on the floor to take pictures of, and we've got
Yeah, that's
security
really-
guards, and,
I think that's a little ridiculous and overboard, and it's
but we
blows
just,
my mind. How much is that even costing us?
you saw what it did to the, like, the public was kind of, oh my God, what's going on? Why are you even doing that?
You should never want to or not centralize, but you should never even have to I don't know, do that to a government, where you should never have to stop the public access to a government. I mean, you pay their wages, you pay the cities run by tax dollars. They should never be putting barriers up like that for the public to have access to their government.
Yeah, and I think it really falls within that same arena as when they introduced the rebranding of the city, where it probably wasn't supposed to come out the way it did. It was probably more an advertising or a marketing campaign that they were gonna use to try and attract business, but it turned out to be a rebranding of the city, the way people perceive it. And even the security issue now, the idea of only reporters that are accredited in advance will be allowed in. There's probably a good intention behind it, in terms of they just wanna make sure they know who's coming in. But to use phrases like, we're trying to put a barrier between the people and the council, and we want to,
The funniest, not the funniest, but when the person had said that there's people who wear knives on their belts in Sudbury, and I'm like, oh my god, or like that person should be fired. That's what I think, and that's what I would do. You can't be making statements like that. Like, there has to be accountability. Like, this person has made a bad decision with the security. It's going to cost taxpayers a lot of money. It's taking access away from the public to their elected officials, which is wrong on I don't know how many levels. And then to make generalized statements, like, well, we're in the north and people wear knives on their belts, and we got that person.
Yeah.
I don't know. Things like that's what I'm talking about when I talk about accountability and people making these decisions. Why are?
I know, and then the elected representatives end up
Bearing the
feeling
brunt of that.
So it's almost as if the best way to resolve this is to make sure that there's the right person does all the press releases.
Well, yeah, you have a communications officer.
That does all of this.
That should be, and for something like that, even if city council does need security, it doesn't have to be beefed up like that. I mean,
Unless there's something we don't know about.
yeah, unless there's threats that we don't know about, but then they should be, they wanna talk about transparency and being openness, all that should be brought up,
Yeah, it's, the way it came out, and like I say, I think in many cases, the intention and thought behind it might be good, but the way it's being delivered, the message that's coming out is just not,
Oh, no,
not good.
no.
And it's just, this is the wrong time,
I
this is the
was-
wrong year to do it.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. I thought, I can't believe they're doing this in an election year, but it's really wrong in all levels,
Yeah.
especially if you want to engage. I think all the public should be engaged in the decision making.
Yeah. Do you see the store hours at the referendum being much of an issue?
I don't think it's gonna be an issue at all, because it's already, people know what they want, they have their choices that they're gonna make, they're gonna be able to vote on it. And I think that issue should have been more of an issue last election, considering the direction that we ended up going. But I don't think it's gonna be an issue this time. People already know what they're gonna, I'd say the majority of people anyways already know what they're gonna be voting for on that referendum, so.
And what I'm hearing from most of the people I'm talking to, most of the candidates that are running, is they're basically almost coming through saying, you know what, if it's less than 50%, it's gonna come to the floor as a motion, but we're gonna go with whatever the majority was, regardless of what the percent was.
And I think that's the right way to look at it. That's the way I feel as well.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
only 40% turnout. If 70% say they want this answer, that's the answer, gotta accept.
Yeah.
If it's 52% turnout, then there's no question at all, it's done.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's gonna be done, and it should be done according to the majority. I think there's a lot of members of the public out there that think, well, what's gonna happen is if it's less than 50%, the council's gonna come in, they're gonna vote differently than what we wanted them to vote. And that's not what I'm hearing from the candidates. They're-
No, definitely not. Either way, we have to respect the decision of democracy, right? So
Yeah.
there is a little glitch in their system that says you need 50% to get it, to make it binding.
Yeah.
But if it's 49% people that come out, or 25% of the people come out, and they come out either way, whichever way they're coming out is the
Yeah.
way that I would put it.
Yeah, the way I look at it is if you only get a 40% turnout, then 60% of the people are saying, you guys decide.
Yeah,
So we'll let the 40% decide.
yeah.
So, hey, fine.
That's the way I look at it. That's how
Okay.
I would do that too.
The issue of trying to, I guess, affect our population by either bringing in more people to work, like attracting more industries or attracting more people that want to make Sudbury their home. That's definitely not a new issue. I think it's been around forever. I've heard a couple of people say that it's starting to get to the critical level though, that we're at that point where we need growth.
Oh, we do.
Somehow.
Yeah, no, and what we're doing isn't working right now, so we have to look differently,
Yeah.
right? And then when you look at the growth of the city, we're gonna need to keep the people that we're educating here. We're educating a lot of people here, between all of our post-secondary institutions. And we gotta make it friendly for them to to open up shop here, you know. We gotta have, things in place where these people are gonna wanna stay in Sudbury, not make it just a destination to where they're gonna be going to next. And, obviously with those people coming here, it's gonna create jobs, and hopefully it'll be able to grow.
Yeah, so, but it is something that I think we're gonna have to spend a little bit more time, looking at a long-term vision for growth and looking at a long-term, way of making it happen.
Yeah, I think if you take a look at, if you cut the industrial development charges and try and get people here to let the industrial companies grow, I think that would be a good start to let these businesses come here, you know. And then again with the airport, I think if we can accommodate other, if you look at North Bay, they have a long enough runway that they can accommodate the shipping and receiving of things through air that we can't do in Sudbury, right? So if we can let these things come into Sudbury, and if we have a strategy in place for industrial growth, it's really gonna benefit, and it'll affect our growth too, because if there's 30 or 40 new jobs that are coming here, and we have to attract talent from other cities to come here, and then we have another 20 or 30 new houses that we can build and have new families, and there's more property tax.
I guess one of the last things I wanna take a look at is, we're now at the beginning of March in this campaign. And at this point in time, I only have one person who's declared that they're running for mayor. It's almost as if the entire community is waiting to see who's going to declare that they're gonna put their name in as mayor. We know that John Rodriguez has already indicated he's going to register on May 1st, and I know that that's got something to do with the commitment he's got right now, that he has to wait until May 1st before he can get into the campaign. But are you getting many people wondering what's going on? How come nobody's putting their name in for mayor yet?
No one's really talked to me about that.
No.
I think a lot of people just assume that certain people are gonna end up running
Eventually.
eventually. And I think I think they should have, I mean, you look at Toronto and you have like 34 mayor candidates right now, you know, so I think that if it was me that was running for mayor, I would have declared January 2nd, but.
Do you think the provincial election is having an effect, that people are waiting to see who the candidates are gonna be for provincial?
No, I think that it may have had an effect with campaigning itself, but not putting their name forward.
Okay, because there was a rumor that our current mayor might be encouraged to represent one of the parties.
Yeah, I don't really have anything to say about that.
So you haven't heard anybody saying that? I know in my area, there's, people are anxious to see the names of the final slates.
Well, I think it
Final
would have
people
been
running.
nice. Yeah, I think it'd be nice to have some of the people out there. You know, in my ward, there's 6 people running right
There's
now.
6 out there.
So
Four.
there was
There's
no-
4 in mine.
Yeah, I know. So there's no reservations about not coming out early in these wards. You know,
Mhm.
but I really think that I think more competition the better. Anyway, so that's good.
It's gotta be tough too, to be a sitting councillor, wanting to put your name in, but you still have another year to govern the city.
Well, it doesn't. It's your job, right?
Yeah.
So you just gotta stand by what you're gonna run on.
Mhm.
And when these decisions come down, like the past 2.9% property tax increase, I mean, we gotta, who voted for that, right? If you're running for a certain position, and if you're an incumbent councillor and you're running, you know, how can you sit here and say that you wanna lower taxes and then vote for a tax increase that's substantially above inflation?
Hard question to answer.
Well, you can't, right? Well, you know the answer, it's not,
It's
so.
not when people wanna hear.
No, so you gotta have, you gotta be ready to back it up, so it's even more beneficial to get out there right away, I would think anyways, if you're already there. I know you don't have to, cause you already have some kind of name recognition, but I think, it's important.
Yeah, so kind of starts the ball rolling when you know everybody that's gonna be out there
Yeah.
is in there. I know everything's fairly quiet, on the campaign trail, because there's a lot of anticipation of, you know, the other names that are gonna come in.
Yeah, well, and you know what, I think it has a lot to do with the weather as well. It's hard to get out there when it's always -30 or snowing, you know, so I think it's gonna be a good spring. And, I look forward to meeting with everybody in my
Great.
ward.
Great. Any final comments, anything we've missed that you wanted to touch base with this afternoon, or?
Well, just, basically that, you know, I'm committed to bringing taxes down and to getting the spending under control and looking at ways that the current city council isn't really willing to entertain those ways to bring the property taxes, down.
Great. Aaron Beaudry, candidate for council in Ward 9. It's been nice having you come back again. I want to thank you, because, you know, this show is only going to be effective if we can get people who are running for the positions that come in and take time to talk. I'm hoping within another month or so that when people come in, we have put 20, 30-minute talks or talk over the phone on specific issues. Like one particular thing that happens to be at the forefront, because we know that when the media gets onto a particular issue, that's what everybody wants to hear about right away. And so if we have 5 or 6 people who are willing to share their viewpoints, then.
Well, even if you look at the past council meeting, the 2 of those issues there were the office supply budget, which, and then you have the taxi, the $50 deposit on the taxis coming out of downtown. And personally, myself, I think there's other ways that we could have looked at helping the taxi companies and not putting handcuffs on the people that are already going downtown, because what they just did is, I think that they just limited the amount of people that are gonna be willing to go downtown now.
Yeah, and we talked before going on air too, but I didn't even think the taxis were an issue until this past weekend, when I found out, you know, all of a sudden, all kinds of people are talking about how hard it is to get a taxi in the valley.
Yeah.
To go home at night if you've been out drinking or socializing.
Yeah.
I never would have thought that was such a difficult problem, but it leads to a whole bunch of other things in terms of, if you can't get that safety element of being able to go out and socialize, knowing that you're gonna get a safe ride home, what do you do?
Yeah, you don't go, so then.
You don't go, or you don't wanna see this, but you don't wanna see people driving intoxicated.
No.
And yet, I never even thought, you know, how hard is it to get a taxi at 2 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah.
And apparently it's pretty hard, you know,
Yeah.
in the valley. I never realized it. So is that an issue for council? Well,
It is, I think it is, because you're gonna be spending millions of dollars in downtown, you know, and you're spending millions of dollars here, and then you're not gonna have people go there, because you're putting up these walls, you know?
And if people are wanna decide where they wanna live in a particular community, and they ask people living, well, I'll say the valley, but it could be anywhere, living in the valley, well, do you think we should move here? And one of the first things they'll say is, no, don't move here, you'll never get a cab.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, you've got something that should be minor, that has now become an issue that, well, if that's one thing that you're talking about isn't very good, then there must be a lot of other bigger things.
Yeah.
So it changes that whole attitude. But anyway, it's gonna be an interesting 7 or 8 months.
Yeah.
Leading up to the election, that's gonna be even more interesting 4 years after that.
No, it
But
will be.
let's hope that people are getting better informed of what the issues are and what the candidates have to say, and like I say, I'm looking forward to more of these shows, and we're even gonna start bringing in candidates with 2 or 3 other people, possibly from their wards, so that we can actually have a little panel discussion where we're not gonna have a debate among candidates.
No.
But we'll have, you know, people who are actually gonna be voting, saying, well, these are the issues that we're finding important.
Yeah.
And then we now have one of the candidates able to have a conversation with the constituents. So it's not always the candidate that's doing the talking. It'd be kind of like a mini Meet the Candidate.
Yeah.
So anyway, thank you very much. Want to remind everyone again to stay tuned to the Learning Clinic on CKLU 96.7 FM, and I will be back momentarily to finish the show. think when I was,
Sure, I didn't know where we were with time.
it's always hard to